Hi folks, this is the video on volume of a prism. We will just start by talking about what a prism is in the first place. I have 4 examples here of prisms. Now, a prism is a 3-dimensional object, and now hopefully you can see in each of these objects I've got here, see the red face? If I was to cut through the object, let's say the square base pyramid, if I was to make a slice across it like that, and then I was to look down on top of it, I would still see that same square face all the way through the prism. So no matter where I would cut into the prism, I'd still see that face there. Same with the triangular prism. If I was to slice it down the middle, let's say, I would still see that red triangle on the end, so that same shape of triangle on the end. And same with these two shapes. If I cut through it, I'd still see the same hexagonal shape. And the same for the pentagon, I'd see that all the way through. Now, you've come across prisms like quite often in your life. So a nice example, maybe not a perfect example, but a nice example is maybe a loaf of bread. So if you cut a loaf, take a slice of bread from the loaf, it always kind of seems to have that same shape no matter how far into the loaf you are, kind of. That's it. That's the kind of example we're talking about. So we have a nice wee formula here for the volume of a prism. The volume of the prism can be found if we know the area of this face that is the same all the way through. If we know that area, we just multiply the area by the height of the prism, or in this case, the area of the face times the length of the prism. So when I talk about height, I'm talking about like the length of the prism, if it's lying down or if it's lying straight up, like the square base pyramid here, the height. But they mean the same thing. So it's a nice wee formula for you to remember for a prism. So we'll go and do a few examples, see how we go on. So I'd like you to copy these into your jotter as we go along. So example 1, calculate the volume of this pentagonal prism. You don't need to worry about the fact that it's a pentagon in the end. Now there are some examples where we will do, I'll just underline this, there are some examples we'll do where we might have to work out the area of the face, but if that is the case, then it will only be simple shapes that we know how to work out the area of, so like a rectangle or a triangle, or possibly a circle. So calculate the volume of this pentagonal prism. So the first thing I'll do is I realise it's a prism, so I'll write down my formula. So the volume of a prism is equal to the area of the face multiplied by the height. And remember that height you can think of that as the length of the prism as well. We just use h, but it could be the length. So the volume is equal to, now a nice example this, that we have the area anyway, so we don't need to do any calculation to work out the area. So the volume is equal to 16, that's the area, multiplied by the height of the prism, or the length of the prism, which is 8. So 16 multiplied by 8. Okay. Now, in your assessments right now, then you're more than welcome to use a calculator if you like to do for this one. Obviously, if you fancy a wee bit of practice doing your kind of longer multiplication, and you can do that as well. So what we could do is just go over to the side and do 16 multiplied by 8. 8 sixes are 48. 8 ones are 8. Add my 4 is 12. So 128. Like I say, use a calculator if you feel like doing that, but you may as well do a bit of practice on your multiplication. Next thing is to just bear in mind that we worked out a volume, so we need to write down like what units of volume we're using. So units of volume we're in centimetres, so it's still centimetres, but it's cubic centimetres this time. So the wee 3 up there for a volume. Okay, so if you can make sure you've got that copied into your jotter. What you could do is rewind the video and have a wee go at it again yourself and see if you still get the same answer. But we'll jump on to a slightly more complicated example, example 2. So calculate the volume of this triangular prism. Now, we know that to work out the volume of a prism, then we need to do area times height. So volume of a prism, we're going to be using, I'll just write the formula over here first of all, just so we know what we're looking for. Area multiplied by the length of the prism, or the height. Okay, now the problem here is that we don't have the area of this face. If that ever happens, it's like I said, it's only going to be one of your simple shapes to work out. So because this is a triangle, we know how to work out the area of this. So what I'll do is I'll work out the area of the face first. So the area of a triangle is length multiplied by breadth divided by 2 from the previous lesson. Okay, so the area is going to be 4 multiplied by 7 divided by 2. Or you might have 7 multiplied by 4 there for length. Either way is fine. So we get 28 divided by 2, which is 14. Therefore, we've worked out the area, and that is, may as well put the units in square centimetres. So that's the area of that triangle first of all. Now we can go ahead and work out the volume of the prism. So the volume is going to equal area multiplied by the length of the prism, or the height of the prism. So the volume is going to equal the area we worked out, which is 14, multiplied by the length, which is 9. Okay, and again, what we could do is just file it in the calculator if we want, or we could go off to the side and just do a quick calculation. So 14 multiplied by 9. Loads of ways you can do this as well. So you could do 9 times 4 plus 9 times 10 if you like, might be a bit quicker. But I'll just do my algorithm way. So 9 times 4 is 36, 9 times 1 is 9, add your 3 is 12. So 126 for that. So the volume is 126. Remembering my units, so we're in centimetres here and cubic centimetres. There we go. Okay, and we will look at another special type of prism here. This is a cuboid. So the cuboid, again, it's the same idea. So this is still a prism. Now, for a cuboid, it's quite nice because you can actually choose any face you want to be the face that if you cut through, you still see the same face. What we'll do is we will work out the face on the end and then multiply it by the length of the prism. But you could work out the face at the front and then multiply by the length, come back the way. Either would be fine. So what we would first have to do is to have to work out the area of this face. Now, because this is just a rectangle, well, we know how to work out the area of a rectangle. That's just length times breadth. So the area of the face is length times breadth. So this is this end face I'm looking at, this face here. So that's 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6. Just for good practice, square centimetres. There we go. Now, for the volume of this prism, this cuboid, which is a rectangular prism, we do area multiplied by the length of the prism, or the height of the prism. So area, which was 6. So that was for that face on the end. So we want to now imagine that face going pushed all the way through the shape this direction. So our length is 5, or our height is 5. So 6 times 5, which is 30. And because it's a volume, that's cubic. There we go. Now, for anyone who's seen this before, you may have done this slightly different. Or as I say, same idea, but you may have thought of this a wee bit different. If it's a cuboid, there's something special we can do. So for a cuboid, a wee formula we can use, I'll bring that down there, is that the volume of a cuboid, this only works for a cuboid, is length times breadth, like we did there for the area of the face, then times height. L times B times H. That's a quick way of working out. If we do this, we still do 2 times 3, then times by 5. So it's the same thing we're doing, just all in one calculation now. So 2 times 3 times 5, which gives us the same thing, which is 30. Okay, so the quick method of working with the cuboid. Either way would give you full marks. Okay.